Welcome home, brave heroes. I'm Ash, this is AshQuest, and the Dungeon Designer's Deck is a deck of 100 cards by Loke Battlemats designed to level up your dungeon game. It is perfectly compatible with 5e and presumably the rest of the Loke Battlemats products, although we'll be testing that shortly, and is intended for ages 14 and up. The Dungeon Designer's Deck is 100 cards, including 60 terrain encounter cards, 10 quest cards, 10 room cards, 10 door cards, 5 enemy generator cards, 3 how to use cards, and 2 random loot cards. Comes with its own 50-page reference book and a double-sided fold-out 16 by 12-inch dungeon map. This is for levels 1 to 10, whatever that means. I don't play TTRPGs.
And why are you reviewing it, you spat?
I don't know what that means, but I'm sure it's a slur. While this product is intended for a 5e game, we all know that I play dungeon crawlers here, and so I like to see if things are worth using for their accidental, incidental, unintended alternative purposes. Here's the barcode if you need it. Just point your scanner at the screen and beep boop. Other things that are good to know include that this is a dungeon generator with instant setup, add to any battle map, 200 plus encounters, great for solo RPG play, and with quick start ready to play rooms and quests. This is not a standalone game. But enough of that, let's open up the box and see what we get. The Dungeon Designer's Deck reference book. And I was kind of thinking this wasn't going to come with its own map before I read the box and then saw that it does indeed come with its own map. And we could just use our own map, and we will. We'll be getting around to the full compatibility here shortly. But let's go ahead and use what it comes with to see the extent of its completeness as a standalone product. So here we go. This thing's going to be a bit difficult to keep down. So if you were really going to use this, you would need to take it out ahead of time and flatten it under something. It is double-sided, and both sides have their own use. They both look the same, but one side has walls and the other does not. Arbitrary choice of walls, I would say. From that point on, we see that there is a cavity in the box, and no dentist can fix this. Listen, that was a bad joke, but it's not worse than anything a dentist would have said. Oh look, there's graphics on the back of the box inside of the box. That's a thing. This is not a card at the floor of this. It's tricked me. It does explain the loot. How many coins have been found? Coins for a 1st through 4th level party, 5th through 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th and 10th. A few coins for a 1st through 4th level party means 1d6 GP value, while a few coins for a 9th through 10th level party means a 4d12 GP value. It's just like real life, you know, and that a few bucks means something different depending on who you are. I don't remember how much I paid for this. I picked it up at the 2025 Gen Con in Indianapolis. I know it was less than $25 USD. Side note, I saw the designer there, or at least one of the owners of Loke Battlemats, Matt Henderson himself. He was very busy. I didn't say hi. Next time, though, here's our how to use cards. Then we have our 10 card deck of quest cards, room cards, which they'd changed up the color just a tad bit on those, and double-sided cards that actually have tiles on them. These are pretty deluxe-sized cards. They're not your normal poker card sizes or anything. I'm sure there's an actual name for what these are, like jumbo or bridge or something. They're not bridge cards. They're not bridge. Bridge is longer, I think. They're definitely not tarot. They're a little over 2 3/4 of an inch, and they're 3/16 of an inch away from being 4 inches. I'm too lazy to look that up right now, so let's just enjoy the functionality and use. You can see that the floor of the cards has the same tile pattern as what's on the poster that it comes with. So when you set these down, it will mesh perfectly with the background in the sheet included. I say perfectly, but our wall disappears. And it doesn't look like there are any walls included with any of the cards. So to maintain complete immersion, you are going to need to use these in spaces that are at least 1 tile away from the nearest edge of wall. Edge of wall, wall. Sorry for stopping on this point. I get so excited when I see like modular tile type stuff. You also don't even need this mat to go ahead and build out yourself a dungeon using the cards, but then it would be pretty cluttered. Like everything that would be contained to one room normally would just be the entire room and no walls. So, immediately forget that I said that. Okay, when we come to the inner corner of this map where the wall kind of has to separate instead of encroach the tiles, we do have a separation here. We have a legitimate, valid separation of wall and card and tile, and everything still lines up fairly evenly. You don't have to use them up and down style. You can use them side to side style as well, like I'm doing here. And you essentially have 3 by 4 inch tiles, although I just measured them and we did see that they're not exactly 3 by 4 inches. Yep, it's the outside of the tiles closest to the edge of the card that kind of suffer in that regard. And that's why we can have things like walls against the edge of the tile. Unless you're going up against this, for whatever reason, this is the side that's cut short on this. I guess that they could have an exacting dimension here, so the walls encroach on the sides. Whatever, it's not important anymore. So we'll put our magical warp circle in there, and then we'll actually place this card here to completely delete the wall. So now the wall stops here, and we can have line of sight between creatures here and here. We'll place our stairs here for no reason, but we'll actually move it off so that we maintain our wall. We've got like a whole courtyard of skeletons and a bloodied courtyard of skeletons. So we'll place those here and here just to spook people. Now it looks like as you are going into this section of the room, there was a battle and the battle got way worse. The meat here is a little fresher. Replace this with dining tables. I'm going to actually show you what's on these cards though. And you can be wowed by the contents as I'm going through. Explaining how I might use these. I actually really like stuff like this. It provides sort of set dressing for the dungeon. It doesn't even have to mean anything, or it could be a particularly important clue. And these are double-sided, and I'll show you what's on the other side here shortly. But in classic Loki fashion, you've got all of these modular bits and bobs that you can put together and use pretty much any way you see fit. And if you're trying to put them in a place that does not have a stone floor, you're going to clash visuals on your assets, and that's never really a good thing. You can look past it. You can be like, not picky about it. But if you went out of your way to spend money on these, then you probably won't do that. And you probably are picky enough to not do something like that. Look at that. We've got a couple cards that would go together perfectly. Library, walls of shelves. And we could change that up however we want. Make that match up however we like. Love that feature. Love that detail. Got furniture in here that's a little bit more modern. You can kind of see the 3D model aspects of some of it. Some of this looks very artistic, stylized, 2D, like drawn. And then other times you've got like placements of 3D models, and you can tell that that's what they are, snapshots of models in the card. Some cards provide us with rune puzzles, like here. This actually says Pink Pony Club. I'm sure of it. 4 letters. Yeah, no, I'm right. I know I am. We have an ongoing game of Battle Masters raging on. We've got crates, we've got a bloodied pile of stores, we've got grates, we've got chests, boxes, beds, archery, targets. We've got a nice little dip in the pool, which could actually be the exit or an entrance to a particular dungeon. On the other side of our cards, we have basically the event that can occur with this space. A spa bath, large and deep with steps in. 1 to 2, pool day. Denizens are bathing in the pool unless they spot the characters in time to don arms and armor. They have AC 10 plus dex and are unarmed. 3 to 4, morph water. Anyone entering the pool polymorphs into the appearance of a denizen for 1d4 hours unless they pass a very difficult cha save. Cha for charisma. 5 to 6, healing waters. The water here is blessed, restoring a major amount of hit points and removing any poison or disease effects. This works once a day per creature. Refreshing. Spending a short rest by this bath pool is relaxing and clears a level of exhaustion. On a long rest, an additional level of exhaustion is cleared. This is card number 60. We don't know how to use that just yet, but you can already kind of tell. You can infer from the card instructions that we're rolling a d6 to see what kind of effect this thing has by existing in our two-dimensional board game world. Now we'll pick these up and we'll do another one. This is Bloody Bones, card number 10, possibly a ritual sacrifice site. Rolling a 1 is Cold Hands. The bony remains clutch a case with a magic scroll inside. 2 is Fairy Coins. A lot of coins can be found here. These were placed to honor these dead souls. Anyone carrying such coins will be targeted by any undead. And 3 to 5, Bloody Dead. There are undead here that were created in a foul ritual. These undead move 10 foot faster than usual and add a light amount of poison damage to their attacks. And finally, 6 will have Shield Crest. A broken shield could yield a clue via a difficult history check. Unholy Ground. When bloody bones are present in a room, all undead have advantage against being turned whilst in that room. The con to the descriptions and the lore and the mechanics on the cards being on the back of the card means that you will have to turn the card to get any sort of refresher as to what that environment feature does. If you can really call it a con, then you place it back down. These also don't have to be active on the map that you are playing. You can absolutely draw one completely boardless and just set it down and say, well, there you go. You've drawn pool. And then if we want to know the effects, you'll have to flip pool over and read reverse of pool. Otherwise, it stays a reference card that just hangs out in a reference card section by your game. Maybe these cards can correspond to features that are already baked into certain boards or are represented by miniatures on boards, such as if you were going to play perhaps HeroQuest, and I'm struggling to find a suitable card, but we have cards here that kind of are close to entire room tiles that are provided with certain expansions to HeroQuest. But let's go ahead and look at the throne. This could be used with any thrones that are on the board in most of the quests in that game. When you enter the room, and we can go ahead and say, draw the card at the beginning of the quest before you even begin, and your heroes won't necessarily know when they will encounter a throne, but they know that something will happen once they do. In that regard, you're weighing the unknown against the known, which is a proper way of doing random mechanics. And if you are replaying a quest with veteran heroes who know exactly where thrones are, then you don't do it that way. You enter a room and you have your heroes draw a card, and if the effects seem like they could pertain to that room depending on pre-agreed upon, or at least pre-decided upon by Zargon, parallels, then the effects shall take place, but, in HeroQuest form. Then the throne will incur the following. Roll the movement die, 1d6 when you enter. 1 to 2, in court. A boss denizen is resident in this room. That's usually a given with HeroQuest, but they haven't planned on facing the characters yet and won't make a last stand, instead retreating if reduced to half hit points to face them again later. Can you imagine playing this card and having the heroes enter into the main room of Quest 1 where Varag the Foul Gargoyle awaits in the trial in Felmark's tomb? That would be crazy to have the gargoyle actually flee and be like, I'll get you next time, heroes. Like, you weren't designed for that. Make your stand. But this card changes all of that. How would you change the lore? Do you go ahead and pluck Varag if he can escape to the stairwell, only to randomly place him in a future quest where the heroes could find him? Think about the tension that could cause for your heroes just in a normal game. As Zargon, watch your heroes squirm in their seats at the thought of an entire gargoyle, extra gargoyle, random gargoyle showing up at any point during the quest. You could even have him show up as a wandering monster. If you draw the wandering monster card, you have your hero roll the d6, and if they get a 1, well, there's that Varag finally coming into use. 3, guards. Some denizens stand watch. That's already a thing happening there, but okay. 4 to 5, storied. A clue can be found amongst the engravings here by passing a routine history check. And history checks and the like are things that are kind of built into mega quests. So if you're using that system, you'd be able to incorporate these in a more natural and intuitive way. Not a history check per se, but you can always make correlations between certain types of TTRPG checks. They're all basically the same 6 things. I think a history check actually corresponds to an intelligence check in 5e anyway, am I right? No sitting. A trap that is very difficult to spot and disarm will cause anyone sitting on the throne major force damage. It's not likely that any of your heroes are going to sit on the throne. It's kind of like an unprompted RP action, but if you were going to do that in the dungeon crawler anyway, then that could happen. Gilded. There is a stash of coins of gold decorating the throne. It will take a little while to free the gold. This will definitely enrage the throne's owner. And it's just Zargon, who cares? This provides inspiration for sure, for certain. We've completely skipped so many things to look at those map cards because I knew the map cards were basically going to be money for me, but we still have our doors deck and we have enemy generator cards. The enemy generator cards are separated by level, so for a 1st to 2nd level party, we've got beasts, undead, denizens, named monsters, easy, standard, elite, boss, and overwhelming. And we have the same pattern for all of the cards thereafter, but for the different tiers of levels that your characters might be at. For Dungeon Crawler, none of that's really going to be useful. It's a lot of conversion and a lot of subjective conversion, which means the way that I do it might not be the way that you do it and so on. So we won't do that today, but I do want to show you kind of what the enemies' tables look like. They look like that, and they look like that. Okay, I like the door deck here very much. It's not really one that you can draw randomly from, though, because the card art is different on every card, unless you're drawing from the bottom of the deck, or you have them maybe in their own box upright with dividers, which is a proper, noble way of playing any board game. So we draw a card at random, and this is the card, and it's a barred door. A prison-style door with a barred window, a solid door with bars, AC 17, hit points 22, threshold 4. So we have definitely things that we need to convert here to make this useful in a dungeon crawler, but this is your 5e stuff. For status, just roll 1d6. This can be unlocked, locked, guard, or cursed, giving all of your doors unique properties. You go ahead and find a door, and as soon as your hero tries to open it, you, behind the screen, unflip a card, draw. Pick up a card and observe its contents and share them. Guard door, a solid guard door with porthole. Structure, this heavy door is built for defense. AC 16, hit points 25, threshold 5. Isn't that less AC than the barred door? Yeah, I guess the bars are a little thicker on this door. If you roll a 1 to 2, it's locked. Could be a very difficult to pick mechanism. A nearby clue could be a key. 4 to 6, it's a guard station. There's a denizen guard station on the other side, and they will shoot ranged attacks from the porthole against any intruders. Simple rolls like this can add a ton of flavor to your door opening adventures in any game that features doors that can be opened. The bulkhead door has an AC of 18 and can be locked this side, or is a treasure door. Also, the lock to this side notes that there is an elite monster on the other side. There is a lever by the door which opens it from this side. And I know some of you say lever and some of you say lever. Comment down below what it is that you say. If you've got a 1d10, you can roll yourself up some magic loot. Different party levels roll different dice on these item tables. 1st through 4th levels roll 1d4, 5th through 6th roll 1d6, 7th through 8 roll 1d8, and 9th through 10th roll 1d10. That's actually a really clever way of doing things. So prepare to get a lot of potions of healing, climbing, animal friendship, and hill giant strength, no matter what level you're at. Because as a 10th level hero, you're going to roll 1 through 4 many, many times. It's just the way of the D&D gods. There are scrolls, there are rings, there is armor, there is weapons, there is items. There is plurals. Room cards, what could the room cards possibly be? Arcane study, a wizard's private sanctum where they perform their arcane research. Encounter cards, add and generate an encounter from the following cards in this room. Stargazer study, which is card number 8, desk 31, large rug 32, and magic circle 38. This actually has instructions on the card, but we're inferring, because it's just that intuitive and simple, that you'll take the numbered cards in the order that they have referred them and build out an arcane study. Now, I don't think that this was meant to represent an entire dungeon or anything like that. I think what we have here is just 3 different kinds of room configurations, 3 different kinds of room sizes. An arcane study should be it could be either this big or this big. We'll just go for bigger because that's fun. Bigger rooms are more fun rooms. Am I right? I said, am I right? Okay, so these are encounter cards, and they've got their own text on the back, and that is what creates the encounter. Plus, they provide us with set dressing and stuff to actually visualize our interactions. But this is the Stargazer study, the desk, the large rug, and the magic circle. We don't really have a specific way that we have to put them, so I can go ahead and place them however I want. I can note annoyingly the inconsistency of scale yet again, something I absolutely can't stand. You can go ahead and say, well, maybe, tables are just different sizes, Ash. Yeah, no, and the coins are the same size, which implies that this is a deliberate decision, but the very planks themselves are different sizes, and I think it just was a case of scale was not considered, and I would say that the difference in sizes of the chairs is proof of that. Please, please always make sure that everything scales appropriately when you make things like this. It is so much appreciated by me at the very least. All right, so this room might tell a story. There's a magic circle here at the bottom. That's not the bottom. This being the entryway. Whatever. There are 2 separate areas for study and for recording findings and writing in journals and writing letters to wizards and nobility from far off places to blackmail them or get more research information or materials. But we're not done. Let's continue reading the card. A difficult arcana check will uncover 1 clue from each encounter card in this room. So this basically modifies the cards that are in this room. Although this isn't quite going to be random every time, while the encounter cards have their own things that you can roll on, which do make them somewhat customizable, random, this is always going to be a formula for this room specifically. So you'll always have a difficult arcana check to uncover 1 clue from each of the 4 exact same encounter cards, every single time in this room. Staff, if none were generated by the encounter cards, roll and add a denizen to the room. Now you know this could be random because you will roll on whether or not denizens are added to a room or not. And that is a feature I do like. Final encounter. If this room is the final encounter for the quest, add one of these as a boss based on party level. A cult fanatic, a lamia, a mage, a spirit naga, or an archmage. And boss loot. If a boss is present, add a lot of coins, 1d3 magic potions, and 2 magic items to the room. They are either in the desk or carried by the boss. Okay, now it's time to look at the quest cards. only because we've already built our room and we'd like to apply some context to it. The quest is the Alchemist. Now, this is just one I drew randomly, but it fits perfectly, so we will use this one. A famous guild alchemist has hired the characters to travel to a remote dungeon to collect valuable ingredients stolen from one of their shipments. On the nose, I really like it. Mission: the alchemist needs 2d4 plus 4 of their ingredients recovered from the dungeon. Backstory: an evil rival who rules over the dungeon has taken the ingredients. This is the boss found in the Arcane study. That happens to be the card that I drew, so it looks like it's a matter of, I'm inferring a lot for somebody who has completely skipped the 50-page rulebook that was at the top of this box. Each clue represents an ingredient stashed into the dungeon. Rooms: after 5 rooms, spawn a library. After a further 5 rooms, spawn an arcane study. This actually is all I needed to know. This explains this entire process. The way that everything is spawned is based on the quest card. Final encounter takes place in the arcane study. Special: the following special rules apply. A difficult herbalism kit or alchemist's supplies check will also be able to harvest 1 extra clue from either mossy floor, giant crystals, or spider webs. So now I'm wondering if there's some kind of stipulation that says that this stuff could be in here because mossy floor, giant crystals, and spider webs is nowhere in this room, which was generated by the arcane study card. For rewards, coins, and potions, you get coins, you get potions. I won't read that again. All right, Dungeon Designer's deck. We have here pretty much a complete reference of all of the cards, plus the backs of the cards that explain what it is that they do, and I really appreciate that. I think that's a great thing to add to this. And that includes the door deck, as well as the enemy generation tables. All of this stuff right here in the book. The rooms and quest cards are covered by this as well, so that's almost all of your 50 pages. This all starts on page 6, so page 2, 3, 4, and 5 are the rest of the actual instructions. Welcome to the Dungeon Designer's deck in this very backwards unboxing. Create brand new dungeons or add random encounters to your existing dungeons. Add to your games. This deck of cards is not a standalone game. Instead, they add to your existing fantasy role-playing game. They can be used to quickly generate encounters, plan out larger dungeons, or even provide a solo play experience. Rules are presented to use these cards for games of 5e, the most popular edition of the best-known role-playing game. 5e has a free rule set available called the SRD, which we reference for the items and monsters. The core principle is the encounter cards. Deal encounter cards whenever a new dungeon room is entered. We suggest 1d4 cards per room depending on room size. Roll an encounter from the back of each card, then place them scenery side up on your battle map. So you place the card down, then roll on it, then scenery side up on the battle map. Deal a door card whenever a door needs to be interacted with. Only problem I have with the door cards, because I love the concept of mechanics as they pertain to doors in dungeon crawlers, in TTRPGs also. I mean, I would like that feature in TTRPGs if I played them, but love it in dungeon crawlers, love that concept. Hardly never see it really, but love the idea. I just don't like that you have an even chance of getting the exact same door types. There's no rarity to the door type whatsoever. It's a minor complaint, like very, very first world privileged almost complaint. But I would modify this, and I would argue that it is meant to be modified to some degree. You're going to have a normal door most of the time, and you'll go ahead and roll a die, and if that die is a very specific number or range of numbers, then you'll draw one of these cards, and you might actually split them up to some degree, depending on how realistic you think it is for certain types of these doors to be in certain types of the adventures that you're rolling up, and say that they are further rare. So you roll 1d10 because you've got 10 doors here. And if you roll anything less than an 8, nothing happens. It's just a normal door and you go through the door. But if you roll a 9 or a 10 or a number that you choose, then you draw from the door deck by rolling another 1d10. And this 1d10, it might be that 1 through 7, okay, are going to refer to these 7 doors because they seem like reasonably common doors, but 8, 9, and 10 don't refer to these doors. Instead, if you roll an 8, 9, or 10, you are brought to the extra rare dungeon menu. And now you have to roll a 1, 2, 3, a 4, 5, 6, or a 7, 8, 9. To get these doors generated. It's convoluted, but I mean, you could think of a simpler way to do that, right? If you roll the 10, then it's just a normal door after all, which means you went through all of this work for nothing, but it pretty much guarantees a way back to the normal door, even if you roll too high for the normal door. It's like, oh, I thought it was going to be barricaded, but it was normal. It just opened. It's like rolling a nat 20 or 1, depending on your side of things. Preset rooms using set encounter cards with special rules, each with a possible boss encounter. That's our room cards. Quest cards are thematic ways to run a dungeon with set plot, objectives, and rewards. And enemies. Enemies met based on the party level. Loot. Items and loot found based on the party level. The dungeon. You can use this deck to populate an existing dungeon map either as part of an advanced planning or on the fly during your game itself. They can also be used to populate randomly generated dungeons. So here's your random dungeons table. And if it's too random, you may find, due to the random nature of the encounter tables, that a room has generated an unbalanced encounter. Either adjust to fit your table or let the characters learn not all dungeons are fair. Clues are mentioned in encounters and quests. Clues track quest progress and may count towards objectives like opening doors or solving puzzles. The exact nature of the clues will vary based on the quest taking place. They could be scraps of paper, keys, magic tokens, or anything really, even hostages or monsters. The Dungeon Designer's deck can be used to facilitate solo play by playing our included quests or simply drawing encounter or door cards as you work through a dungeon. And I like that probably most of all, the consideration for solo 5e, which is something I'm still very interested in studying. Ginny D out there has got a great video on solo Dungeons and Dragons. It's something that sounds so silly on the tin. Like almost sad, like I played Dungeons and Dragons last night. Awesome, how did that go? It was great, I played solo. You what? But why should it be any different than playing any other game solo? What did you do? I played Elden Ring. Did you play solo? Well, yeah. Haha, loser. All right, so there may be, differences between those inherently, but never mind any of that. I just realized I lied about testing the cards on other backgrounds. So we're going to do that right now. Yeah, so right here on this random Maladum neoprene mat, they're going to clash so badly that the noise between the floor difference is going to be something that takes the players out of the immersion altogether. So forget that, let's actually use Loke products. And for that, I've got my Loke Book of Battle Mats Wilderness Edition, which is going to introduce the same problems a lot of the time. And for the wilderness stuff, we're also going to run into the issue of scale mismatch, which scale mismatch is not a problem unique to Loki at all. It's just something I complain about whenever I see it because none of this is important and I like to pretend that it is. But scale mismatch and theme mismatch aside, I mean that you can't really aside them. These are not going to be compatible with the Outdoors book at all. How about the Dungeon Edition? All right, so this is where things might change up just a little bit. It depends on what room you're using. And that's for the background, of course, but all of your rooms in the smaller editions of these books are going to be pretty easy to set up and make your own, decorate them as you see fit. Something like this actually makes a bit of sense in this room. It's not immersion breaking. It looks like it could be part of the picture unless you are just really, really being picky. I actually don't hate it. And I think that there's something to be said for the cards versus the little cling on deals that Loki also make to put on stuff and then peel it back off. I have a bit of a bias against those. It's just they're not my preference. I am very much a put the tiles on a physical thing and let me set the thing down as part of a generation process kind of guy. Let's put this rift of water right here. This kind of makes sense. I like this. I don't mind this. We'll put the damaged floor here. Also something that makes sense in this context. It is, again, asset clashy, but it's just going to come with that kind of no matter what. The cling on thing kind of removes that problem entirely because they cut very close to the graphic and everything else is transparent. So you can set things down and it's just part of the scenery, bar none. But like when we have to do stuff like this, we've got to utilize our imaginations a little bit. And that can be hard for some of us, particularly me. I don't have Aphantasia or anything, but I really like miniatures and I like scenery and I like immersion. So I would say the compatibility is basically a no. I mean, it's so situational that it's just going to be something you have to really actively seek out. There may be dungeon pages in the larger Loki Battle Mat books, in fact I'm sure there are, that match the style of what's on the room cards perfectly, that match the style of this perfectly. In fact, I think that this is a 12 by 12 on 2 pages, so a 24 by 12 map just with its own style in one of those spiral bound books. So I also don't think that it's any sort of excuse to not get the Little Book of Battle Mats or the bigger books of Battle Mats or any of the Loki products, because they are all super cool on their own, and I've supported Loki's stuff for a long time, so this is just the latest in a long line of cool Loki products. I'm going to absorb what knowledge and inspiration I can from the Dungeon Designer's deck, and I hope you do the same, or at least consider doing the same. If you play 5e, This would be an awesome tool to have at your side in your toolkit. If you don't play 5e, having this for its inspirational values as dungeon crawler fodder could be very much worth it as well. It's really not like a bank-breaking price at all. But brave heroes, that's all the time I have for this video. I thank you so much for joining me today. Consider joining the Patreon or becoming a YouTube member for permanent benefits that do not expire once your paid membership elapses, and I might see you in the Discord. Until next time, I bid thee farewell, and now onward.